I'd like to welcome you to the second episode of season 2 of Good News on the Ground. And I'm Reverend Lisa Work with my co-host,
Sarah Reed.
We are excited about this second episode, and we're actually going to be focusing on the second chapter of the book, Invite, Welcome, and Connect, specifically the idea of invite. So Sarah and I were kind of talking before we got started here about Episcopalians and evangelism. We had thoughts, don't we, Sarah?
We sure did, Lisa. My goodness. And we thought for a while about it, and it was difficult, to have a real sense of what is evangelism and what does it mean to us. And I think a lot of times we have some misconceptions, and we as Episcopalians we're kind of a proud people. We're proud of our church. We're proud of the sacraments, and we're hoping that people will just come and want to see that. And so we're a little bit shy to invite people and ask them to come and see what do we have to offer in a non-judgmental and kind way. We'd rather just wait for them to come to us.
Yeah. And I think we have some preconceived ideas because of what other people name as evangelism, right? I have to be honest. So we were having some true confessions before we started here. My idea of evangelism before I became an Episcopalian was converting people, right? To coercing and converting. And that's not what we as Episcopalians see as evangelism. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that anybody has ever thought, I want to be scared or I want to be frightened. No, that's definitely not what we're talking about. And that's not what we're hoping to help inspire in our diocese and across the wider church, is that we love God and we want to share that with other people and see where is God working in their lives and have that experience together and to create a better sense of belonging. We don't want anyone to be scared or angry or frightened by what we know already is God's love. God's love doesn't do any of those things, scare or frighten. And I'm not about that. And I don't think you're about that either.
Definitely not. Yeah. We were talking about what does it look like? And you pointed out this a little bit, that it's about our relationship with God, like evangelism and even this invite section of Invite, Welcome, Connect. Evangelism really can't be a thing until we talk about our relationship with God. How does my relationship with God, my relationship with Jesus, how does that transform how my life is? Does it make a difference? If I weren't a follower of Jesus, would my life look? I probably wouldn't be a priest, but would it look different though? Before I was a priest, would it have looked different? And how does my following Jesus look different in how I live my life? Anybody who knows me, I don't ever give up the opportunity to talk about Blackmore Shannon State Park, probably one of my favorite places. And Sarah has heard about it ad nauseum, more than she probably ever wants to hear about it. And I kept telling her, oh, you've got to come. It's such a peaceful place and there's so many things to discover. And I'm just sort of overflowing with all the reasons why it's transformative for me when I go there. And I want her to experience it too. Now, she actually has come to visit Blackmore Shannon State Park with me, but that whole invitation came out of the fact that it was impactful into my life. Therefore, I wanted other people. So Blackmore Shannon State Park is not a church. However, that concept of invitation is similar. Sarah, talk about your invitation to church story. It's such a great example.
Yeah, sure. And before I do that, though, I just want to finish up your story. As the person who got invited to visit the cabin, that just really made a connection between us. And it just made me feel that I was wanted and that I was seen and that I'm someone that's valuable. Even though I couldn't come many times, but I finally did make it. I felt
that whole invite several times principle. That's true.
Sure. We're friends. So I felt like she's going to keep on inviting me. It's all right. It's going to be fine. But I really felt like a sense of belonging and a sense of friendship and a sense of importance, that Lisa values my time and she wanted to open up and share something that is so important to her. So that, I think, alone is worth mentioning. But
yeah, not quite like a multi-level marketing kind of thing.
No, there was no pyramid or anything. I didn't get a free free washing machine or toothbrush or anything.
Not even a
All I got
pen.
was conversation with a friend, but it started because of imitation. And that brings me back to the church. And how did I become an Episcopalian is a long and complex story, parts of it. But the part that isn't complex that we need to talk about here today is it started with just one invitation. I had, decided that I wasn't interested in church life anymore and any kind of relationship that involved corporate worship or God in general. And that had gone on for quite a many years until someone that I knew well and trusted invited me to church. And I thought, even at that time, I was like, I do not want to go to church again. I know what's in there. It's old news. But my friend was like, please just come and see. Come with me to church. And because of that trust in that person and seeing how they felt about it and seeing that they had something that they were wanting to share with me, I went. And it opened a door for me to do all kinds of things and to meet God in a new way and explore my faith and have it reach a depth that I've not arrived by any stretch, but I feel like my faith has been strengthened so much by that one invitation. And I don't know where I would be today if that person would not have said, hey, come on, please come to church, come and see what God is doing here. And yeah, it was a very awkward experience in some ways for me. It was a small gathering. So everyone's like, who's that? But
Yeah.
but it was okay because I had someone safe with me that I trusted. And even though I didn't know how the prayer book worked, I didn't understand why is the leaflet over here, the prayer book over there? Why does no one have their Bible? Where are we? I'm so confused. Why are we sitting? Why are we standing? What is this? What? People are kneeling. I mean, all of it was so new to me, even though I had a lifetime of church experience, but it was different and it was oriented very differently. But I found a home in the Episcopal Church. But I really think a lot of that was because the Spirit of God led that person to invite me, not to coerce me into coming to church. They didn't make me feel guilty about it. She did not try to scare me to come to church. And it was fine that if I wanted to say no, I was open to being comfortable enough to say no because of that trust.
She gave you the agency to choose. Like, we would love you to come. I want you to experience this, but you don't have to come, and I still love you. Right?
Exactly. There was no force involved, and it was just, hey, come and see God is working here. That was
everything perfect at the church that you went to visit? Like, was it like so amazing? Well, you said it was small, and so it wasn't like they were busting at the seams with people and were they a perfect church?
No, of course not. I don't know that one of those exists anywhere, but they might. I'm still
I don't
seeking.
think so.
I am a truth seeker, but the people in that church, though, they were very welcoming in that people were willing to reach up and show me like what page, where are we at, and that kind of thing. It helped because people noticed that I was confused and I didn't know what page I was on and those kind of small things. It wasn't overwhelming. I didn't feel trapped or, no one handed me a pledge card on that day.
They didn't sign you up for something.
They waited a little longer than that, but I didn't get any call for a vestry nomination or some diocesan level work at that point. That came later. All of that put aside, that is my story, at least the very top of it. And probably the most important part, truly, was that it all started with just a simple invitation.
I love in chapter 2, I love that it says location, location, location is what we always say about real estate. It's the most important thing. However, this is a little kind of essay, I guess, that Thomas Hotchkiss wrote in here. He says, however, in the church, it's about invitation, invitation, invitation. And it's best preceded by prayer. It's not coercive, as you mentioned, and it's not intimidating because when we invite somebody, if they come or they don't come, it doesn't mean God is upset or that we have failed if they don't come. I've talked with some of our folks that said, well, I keep inviting people and they don't come. I keep failing. And I say, oh, no, you're not failing if you invite them. At that point, it's all in God's hands. Like, it's the Holy Spirit's job. She's the one who has to, who does whatever needs to happen. It's not for
Yeah,
us,
absolutely. There is no failing if you are genuinely trying to share God's love with your neighbor. That's not failing.
right?
And
Exactly.
so it takes a long time for people to respond sometimes. But yeah,
We
there
need
is no
several
failure of God's
invitations.
love. It does not fail. And I think I
And it's
forget
just,
that sometimes.
I do too. And we think it all kind of relies on our shoulders, right? Like it's all up to us. And God's pretty clear about that, that it's really not up to us.
Yeah.
But I think we naturally start to think that if we don't do it, what's going to happen? And what is our purpose for doing it? I think so often we think we want to invite people so we have a larger church, right? Because it can feel like competition sometimes when we have some churches in this town that are really big, really, really big, and we're not that big. And so it can feel like, oh, they're the successful church and we're the not successful church because we're small, which is not true. God does not measure it by size, if you will. It really is that's God's work. That's the Spirit's work, not our work. Our job is to want to share, right? To love our neighbor and love God and love our neighbor. Pretty clear. It's pretty straightforward. Sounds easy, easier said than done, that invitation. And we want to be sincere and have courage to invite people and not wait till everything's perfect. Or if we have this program, then we can invite this family or until we get this type of worship music, then I'm not going to invite people. Like it can be really tempting to say, I'm not going to invite until, but just to have to encourage to invite, because we're inviting people into the opportunity to explore a relationship with God, right? Yeah. Well, then how does that all work? And is inviting somebody to a church service on a Sunday morning the best on ramp? I don't know if that's the right word. The best first invitation. What do you think, Sarah?
Well, I think that that is part of that spirit-driven aspect of evangelism and building relationship and building a sense of safety. There might be people that you've known for years that you could reach a little bit and you could just invite them to church in that non-threatening way, like my friend invited me. Or there might be new people in your life that, hey, maybe inviting them out to talk about your faith in a simple way is easier. Like, oh, let's go have a donut or coffee. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you something about my life that's important to me. And again, we're offering what we love and how we are feeling love, not something scary. So, if your friend isn't open to that, then that's okay. Then you just move on to something else. But
Right.
I don't think like I said earlier, I think that, God's love it does not fail. And so when we're representing that and they're giving that away, it might take time for people to receive it, but God's
Yeah.
already working in that person. And so we're just doing the smallest part. I think another key piece that we sometimes forget, at least I forget quite often, when maybe some of us that might listen to this or we're deep into church work, we sometimes think, yeah, well, I don't know. We sometimes think though that we're doing this church work by ourselves.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's really easy to, I don't want to say discount, but maybe forget that God's working in your church friends as well. And we're all in it together, and we're trying to widen that circle and that sense of belonging to bring in new people or reconnect people that are already there. And that maybe it's just built into, I'm a very myself kind of person. That's so easy for me to forget about all the gifts and abilities and the work that God is doing with my closest people that I'm serving alongside. That, you've got your core group, you
Absolutely.
know about those. Those are your like main
Right.
assets, but there's so many, there's so much opportunity probably right within reach if you're just kind of open to finding that.
Yeah, I think it requires kind of opening your eyes to look differently. Remember, there's when I was a kid growing up, punch buggy, right? So if you saw like a Volkswagen, you would punch your brother in the arm, or they would punch you in the arm, whoever saw it first. Or if you would say, oh, we're only looking for orange ones and you never see them, then all of a sudden, because you're looking for it, you start seeing them showing up more often, right? And I think sometimes those opportunities for invitation, they come out of different ways. Like sometimes it might be perhaps you're in some sort of organization in your community, right? Rotary, or maybe you're a master gardener, or maybe you are a PTA person, all different kinds of things. Just that normal way that you live life there are lots of connections that you have, there's relationships that I wonder sometimes, are there ways that we can just say, hey, would you like to come to, maybe it's not a Sunday morning service. Maybe you have something else that your church does. That would be a great opportunity to include them in or invite them in. That's not a worship service, to build connections with other people in the church, right? And to see, oh, okay, they're not crazy there. They're, these are
Absolutely.
fun people. We're trying something new here at Grace Memorial. Once a month, we're doing a maker circle where we're just inviting people to bring that craft or that hobby that you kind of stick aside and you never get around to, just for an hour or two on one Thursday night a month. And we just are sitting around chatting and we all did our different hobbies. And we wonder, oh, that would be kind of an easy way to invite someone. It's not a church service, but it's in our church building, and to build connection with other folks. Our purpose is just to spend time together. It could open opportunities up for invitation as we're paying attention.
Yeah, I think, in my parish, we have something really similar where it's quilting club.
Oh, yeah.
And it has absolutely just kind of grown slowly that same way. We started with a core group from the church, a few people, and we have now connected, and we've got people from different faith backgrounds and several that don't have any faith. And they understand that they're welcome in the church, and they have learned a lot, I think, just by experiencing just those opportunities and those conversations that, hey, we're a fun group and we're not
Yeah.
scary and we're inclusive. We don't mind that you don't share our same belief system. We have a lot to offer, and we believe God is loving you and you're in that care, and we want you to be with us. And I'm excited about the Makers Circle. I think you're going to find the same thing. You're going to get
Yeah.
some new faces into the church that they're going to learn something beyond whatever
Yeah.
their craft is.
I
I
hope
love
so.
that.
It's been just kind of fun to just talk to each other, and actually it opens an opportunity for deeper relationship of doing life within the church. I think that's key, right? Relationship seems to be the underlying theme here. Is it all of this comes out of relationship with God, relationship with those people we worship with, and relationship with people in our lives. This isn't necessarily about going to like the person you have never met before in your life that lives 2 blocks over and knocking on their door and saying, hi, want to come to church? Not saying that that's bad. I want to be careful, but it's out of relationship. It grows. It becomes a natural thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that that is what we're going for is that, we are, I think part of being an Episcopalian is, our identity is wrapped up with community and creating that belonging and
Oh,
that
yeah.
sense of togetherness. That's part of what makes us a unique church is that. And, we have corporate worship and we have our prayer book and all of those things that they unite us in a way that other faith traditions don't necessarily have that. They're more individualistic or single mindset of a different style relationship of worship and understanding of God. And I think,
Yeah.
we are built for this to live and work together and to share God's love that way. It's who we are. And we just need to figure out how to do that, I think, in a way that
Right.
is not scary or that
Yeah.
we're
I'm
not afraid of
afraid
doing.
of it. I think we tend to like to be very proud of that we keep our faith private. I think, I've heard that more than one time, not just with Episcopalians, to be honest, but Episcopalians, like we kind of keep our cards close when it comes to our faith. Um, One of the questions in this chapter was, how does having a relationship with God make your life different? And that's a great question to like sit and say, well, how does it make my life different? How do I live? And I think it's again, out of that becomes all of these other parts of invite, welcome, connect is how does this transform my life? Because I have a relationship with God.
Yeah, I think that is the key question to all of this is what does our practice really deeply mean to us? Is it only something that we want to do on Sunday morning, or is it something that we want to share? And I think if we
Yeah.
can't answer that question a certain style of way, I think maybe we need to do a lot more deep work and think about
Yeah.
our own faith.
That in itself is a beautiful invitation. It's not like you're failing. It's not like you're a bad Christian. It's just an opportunity to pause and just kind of say, wow, what is this genuine relationship? What with God? Like how how does it make a difference when I pray? And if you're like, I'm not sure, I don't know that it does make a difference. I'm just
That's
going through the
okay.
motions.
Yeah.
That's okay. And
We
not everybody, right? Like, and
sure.
then just say, wow, who is somebody that you trust that maybe in your parish or, you know, your rector, your priest to say, hey, I want to talk about this because I don't know if I can answer that question. I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know what, I think so many times we look for the right answer, the right words, almost like a passcode. Like, what's the password to get in? And it's not so much a password or the right, combination, but it's really, I think at the core of all of this is an invitation to a deeper relationship with God. And God has been real clear that, I mean, we've been promised the Holy Spirit and that transformation will happen, not on our time schedule. I get a little frustrated with that, with God, just for the record. I don't know about you, Sarah, but I'm like, could we pick this up a little bit? God's much more patient with me, saying, it's at the right timing. I keep thinking about, and I talked about it last episode and I didn't bring it. My little plant that I just looked at before I got on Zoom with you, it's over in the rectory, but the new leaves that are growing, but that plant looked dormant for two years. It basically looked like a fake plant. And now it has little new leaves coming out of it. Things were happening under the ground that I had no idea. And I think that's true in our own personal lives and also in invitation. So every time I watered that plant and moved it to the proper light source, that was an invitation to grow, right? Little water is an invitation to grow. But only God brought forth, as it says in scripture, the increase, right? God brings it. There's nothing I could do to force that thing to grow.
Yeah. We can't control the timeline, but we can control the invitation. You put the water, you did the sun part
Yeah.
that you could do. That is what we can only do what we can do, and that is so hard to let go of. I want to do it all, and I like you. I want to do it now. I think there's a song about that.
I think there is, yeah. And I think
A
I preached
couple.
about that last week. Yeah, I think that was a perfect timing. But we do, but Paul says like everybody has different gifts and it all is really about what God's invitation. I really see what we're doing in Invite, Welcome, Connect as just learning what it is we're invited to do by God and to join God who is already at work in whatever community you're in. God is already at work. We're just being invited by God to join in that work.
So, Lisa, we've talked a lot about some different stuff today that has to do with invitation, but I think it might really help as we're kind of winding down here for you to really give us what is evangelism to Episcopalians? What does evangelism mean for us? We've already discussed what it's not really pretty well, I think. But what is it? What do we consider evangelism?
Great question. It's a practice of seeking, naming, and celebrating Jesus' loving presence in the stories of all people. It assumes that God is already active in people's lives. And the church's job, our job as the church, is to help people name it, to help people say, wow, do you see God at work in your life? Wow, amazing. Or this is how God is working in my life. And so it's that invitation, right? That gentle invitation to notice where it's happening, where God's working and call it out in a good way. And like, hey, I recognize that. I know what that is. Seeing where God is at work. And it's a practice at getting more able to notice where God's at work. Because sometimes so much can be happening in our lives that we don't see it. And we need somebody to point it out. I know I do. Or our friends or the people that we have relationship with, you might be feeling so lost and alone. And we can gently be present with them and say, you're not alone and God is at work. God has you. It still feels icky, but you're in God's hands. So that is this episode of Invite, Welcome, Connect on Invite. And we spent a good deal of time talking about evangelism because I feel like that's almost the elephant in the room. Hopefully it's not E for elephant anymore. It's just evangelism in the room.
Seek, name, and celebrate God's love working in every person. I love that. It's so easy.
Yeah. Seek, name, and celebrate. So we look forward to seeing you all at our next episode. But in the meantime, we hope that you are maybe doing a little seeking, naming, proclaiming and celebrating Jesus's loving presence in your life and those around you. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.